Right. So thank you very much for attending. My name is Chad Leuven. I'm the host for today. We're going to start kicking this off. I just want to start off with a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, just to let you know that the meeting today is being recorded. Also, if you want to ask any questions, please use the chat feature in the webinar. I won't be able to see the questions, but my colleague Steve will be monitoring the chat session, and at the end, we'll open it up and we'll have a Q&A. So with that, I'm going to start with a brief intro of my fellow speakers, and they can each do a bit of an intro of their own, and we can get going with a deep dive into what we do. So the topic today, of course, is enhancing AWS security with the DNS security, primarily IP and DNS security from ThreatSTOP. To talk about it, I've got my colleague Joel and our partner Sanchit with AWS. So I'll turn it over first to Joel and Sanchit to do their own quick intros.
Thanks, Chad. Good morning. My name is Joel Essler. I'm the Vice President of Security Research and Intelligence here at ThreatSTOP, and my team is responsible for conducting all of the investigations and threat work on the internet today, and pushing that detection out into our customer base, including AWS.
Hello, my name is Sanchit Kandaka. I'm an Edge Solutions Architect. So I primarily work on AWS Edge services such as CloudFront CDN and related perimeter protection services such as WAF and Shield. So I work with customers and partners to help our customers, improve their security postures for their cloud applications.
Thanks very much, both of you. So we'll start with Sanchit, if you just want to walk us through some of the basics of AWS WAF and the security options, and how managed rules fit into the whole AWS WAF picture.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chad. So yeah, like we said, AWS Web Application Firewall is a layer 7 application firewall. So it's primarily focused to protect your web applications, online applications against common web exploits, also bot and DDoS attacks as well. So when we look at AWS Web Application Firewall solution, we'll get the next one. We have, when we look at common web application attacks or layer 7 attacks, we're looking at two different classes of attacks. One is the denial of service attacks. These are primarily designed to overwhelm the target resource with a flood of requests. This could be like SYN floods or UDP floods, but also could be like very low volume, slow attacks, but are really focused on tying up the resources from serving legitimate users and legitimate requests. Also includes like HTTP floods as well. On the other hand, there is very focused application vulnerability exploits, which are really not high in volume, but they are very focused on very specific attacks trying to circumvent application protections. These could be like, SQL injection attacks or commands, cross-site scripting or command injections through form input fields, or it could be bot attacks, which are primarily inventory, denial, or could be like just scrolling for content, or it could be stolen credential abuse, where attackers could be trying to create fraudulent accounts or brute force through repeated use of stolen credentials. Next one, please. And so like we said, what is AWS WAF? AWS WAF is a layer 7 web application firewall to protect your web applications and APIs against common vulnerabilities. So it acts through layered security controls. So it not only provides protection against simple attacks, but also very sophisticated attacks. It's customizable in the sense that you can actually craft your own protections or craft your own layer 7 protection rules or rule groups. Is very low operational overhead because it's a fully managed service and ready to use with just a click of a button. So frictionless setup as well. And when we come back to customizable security, we're talking about either customers can craft their own rules, or one of the main focus of this calls is about how a partner can actually help in providing that customized protections for your web applications. This is just a sample example of where WAF fits in the overall request response flow. So WAF is the first layer of defense against your application attacks. So WAF rule ACLs or access control lists, which is a collection of rules, can be attached to either Amazon CloudFront distributions or your Amazon Elastic load balancers or your API gateway services or cognitive services. So these AWS solutions can, WAF can protect your AWS workloads as well as on-premise workloads, depending on where your application is hosted. When we talk about protecting applications, we always recommend layered protection with AWS WAF. So you're not just looking at just application specific rules, you're also looking at rate-based rules that protect against layer 7 DDoS attacks, IP-based controls, which are IP reputation lists, or custom allow deny lists that you can use, as well as rule-based controls, which is like AWS managed rules. But one of the really important things here is how partner rules can complement an existing AWS managed rules. There could be situations where AWS managed rules may not cover the specific scenario that your application needs. Those are the areas where partners really help in and provide you with custom mitigations that you are not able to manage it yourself. Finally, we look at like intelligent threat mitigations such as bot control and fraud control. Like I said, these are very specific targeted attacks that needs a different type of approach. Quickly talking about the rule-based controls, just recapping what I said already, AWS managed rules cover most common attack vectors at layer 7. This could be like SQL injection or cross-site scripting or command injection. There are multiple rule groups to protect against different classes of attacks. If that's something that does not cover your needs, customers have the ability to craft their own rules. But then we also have partners who are subject matter experts and area domain experts in providing custom mitigations against very specific application needs. So these could be, maybe like, allow list or compliance management, or it could be very specific, programming language environment-based rules as well. When we talk about intelligent threat mitigations, I have a couple of slides here that talk about how AWS WAF can protect against wanted and or manage wanted and unwanted bots. A significant portion of web traffic today that we see are bots, but however, like not all bots are bad. There could be situations where you would want to allow search engine indexers or bots that are actually used for vulnerability discovery or API discovery. Those are all the bots that you would want to allow. But AWS WAF bot management allows you to have that flexibility. But then on the other hand, you can also block these advanced bots that are trying to mimic actual human behavior or coordinated activity where residential proxies could be used across multiple networks to attack your applications and slow down responses for legitimate users. They can also be used for credential stuffing or DDoS attacks. And then we have account takeover prevention. Account takeover prevention primarily deals with use of stolen credentials to brute force username and passwords repeatedly. What this does is that the users are just using a spray and pray approach where they're just trying to use all available stolen credentials to gain access. And once access is compromised for a user account, then they could be used for multiple nefarious purposes. And then finally, we look at the account creation fraud prevention. And these are a slightly different class of attacks where attackers are trying to spin up as many fraudulent accounts, maybe for future use at a certain time. And these could be harmful for inventory management and just, making the site really slow for subsequent users, maybe at like, a sale time, inventory goes on live, and legit users really cannot get their hands on the things that they actually want to buy or purchase. Once you have identified what type of attack this is, either a layer 7 or a bot, you have multiple response options. You could, if it's a legit request, you can allow the request to pass through and access the underlying or the protected resource. You can outright block them, but then you can also, initially when you're evaluating WAF ACL, you can count or sort of put them in an audit mode where it only triggers the alert, but it doesn't take any action. On the other hand, you can also respond back with a silent challenge action, which does not disrupt the user experience, or you can respond back with a captcha. You also have, finally, you also have the ability to craft your own custom HTTP response code and body, maybe for specific applications where the user may not be an actual human being, but it could be like an API access or something like that. So there are multiple options depending on the use case, and it allows you flexibility in terms of how you want to present the response. The really important part of understanding the type of attacks and responding to those attacks lies in observability, and AWS WAF provides you with flexible implementations for log processing. The logs are streamed in a JSON format, and they can either be ingested into CloudWatch logs, which is sort of an inbuilt mechanism, or they could be stored in S3, maybe for future compliance purposes or for later analysis also. On the other hand, if you do require real-time log analysis and real-time data filtering, that's also provided with a Kinesis data firehose, where you can pipe those logs into either a on-prem SIEM or third-party integrations, and ThreatSTOP is one of the destinations where you can essentially send your WAF logs to be analyzed later on as well, and to understand the type of attacks that you're seeing. So I believe that ends this section of what I wanted to present at a high level, what AWS WAF can do for you. I'll hand it back to Chad now for the next section.
Thank you very much, Sanchit. And I will start just by giving a brief overview of who ThreatSTOP is and our focus as a company. And then I'll turn it over to Joel for a deeper dive on some of the specifics of what we do with AWS WAF, managed rules, and especially around the compliance solutions. So ThreatSTOP, our principals and co-founders of the company have been some of the original innovators in the DNS space. So our focus, our core strength and knowledge is really all about IP and DNS security. We provide that for managed service partners, for enterprise end users, and also through technology partners like AWS. And effectively, we're about allowing our partners and our customers to communicate safely and securely with their customers and suppliers and partners, but block risks either through blocking DNS communication and lookups or blocking the IPs associated with those attackers. So our solutions basically fall into those two buckets, both DNS defense and IP defense. On the DNS defense side, we deploy it in several different ways. It's all essentially the same product underneath. So we have a protective DNS cloud service that basically anyone can sign up or can be offered through our MSP partners. And then we also have a DNS defense service you can deploy to your own devices if you're running your own devices on-prem or in the cloud. Likewise for IP defense, available in both deployment modes, and of course as a managed rule set in AWS WAF. And one subset of that, which we'll talk about, is the one-click sanctions compliance especially for OFAC and ITAR. And on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Joel, and Joel can walk you through in a little more detail about those AWS WAF managed rules solutions.
Appreciate that, Chad. Thank you very much. Yeah, we at ThreatSTOP provide the AWS managed rules set for WAF, and it includes a lot of things. And you can see here on this slide under stops, brute force credential attacks, scanning, harassing IPs, all the stuff that Sanchez was talking about. I think the thing that kind of brings us to the forefront is the ITAR and OFAC sanctions compliance violations, which is a managed rule set that can be deployed in AWS WAF. It can be deployed on the ThreatSTOP native products. And it can also be deployed in Route 53, which we'll talk here in a little bit about. Oh, I think we skipped one there, Chad. There we go. So the OFAC and ITAR one-click compliance. So what this is, if you're not aware of these two particular set of restrictions, is these are lists of countries or individuals or businesses, etc., that are sanctioned by the Department of State. And there's penalties if you do business with them. There's financial penalties and things like that. And you can see there's an example here of State Street Bank that had to settle a very large penalty over an OFAC sanction violation to the tune of about $7.5 million there. But what this managed rule set is able to do is it's able to not only ingest from us that this is a list that we maintain, managed rule set that we maintain, and it blocks not only the countries that are under the compliance, for example, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, etc. It not only blocks those countries, but it also gets down into the actual companies, individuals, so that those companies, those individuals that have a presence on the internet, whether it be through domain names or IP addresses, either cannot touch your AWS WAF things that are behind the WAF, or things that are your AWS installation that is attempting to communicate outbound. So it'll block in both directions. This also allows you to have proof of compliance. So if during an audit, you're able to actually show proof of compliance during that audit and say, hey, our AWS is protected because we use this particular one-click compliance managed rule set that we have. So this is updated as soon as the Department of State updates their stuff. When a new list comes out, we go through and we do all of the research, we do all of the work to maintain this, and it's very automated, and it's also has a manual component to it, but it takes an awful lot of work. And what this does is it enables our customer base to be able to have that OFAC and ITAR one-click compliance. So it's very nice. This is an example of one of our customers that gave us a customer testimonial. So you've seen these before from other vendors, I'm sure, but this is from Top Cashback, which is it's a UK-based company that provides cashback or coupon or money saving type of resources. And what they do is they apply our AWS managed rule set, and also in their WAF compliance for the ThreatSTOP integration, is that they have the OFAC and the ITAR compliance baked into both of those solutions. So what this is able to do is not only, again, maintain their compliance for the OFAC and ITAR blocking rule set, stuff like that, but it's also able, we'd go a step further with this. I didn't touch on this in the last slide, but what's very interesting about this particular managed rule set is that it actually also monitors certain countries that are under, conflict. For example, right now, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And so what this compliance rule set is able to do automatically for you is that it monitors what sections of Ukraine are currently under control by Russia, what oblasts are currently under control by Russia, and it will automatically add and subtract that section of the invasion into the compliance rule set as well. So a lot of other vendors will say something to the effect of, you could control by country. We get down farther. So, lots of other vendors can just block Russia. We get down farther into blocking actual, the parts of the conflict in Ukraine that are under control by Russia. So it goes a step further, which is very, very interesting. And that's all automatic, and it protects your network automatically for that. And again, one click. It's very nice. Oh, I skipped over yeah, there we go. So another solution that we provide also for AWS is Route 53. So if you're not familiar with Route 53, it's their DNS, Amazon AWS's DNS solution. And what this does is it's able to deploy our DNS-based custom rule set into Route 53. So if you also want to be protected on the DNS level as well as the IP level, you have the IP level at the WAF, and this is the DNS level within the Route 53. You can pick and choose what rule set you want on the DNS side in the ThreatSTOP rule set, and it will automatically deploy into your Route 53 installation, which will protect you against malicious lookups and things like that. So that's also a very nice, real streamlined piece of security. And obviously we have solutions outside of the AWS area, but AWS is protected in both the WAF and the Route 53 section. This is kind of a touch base, as I kind of alluded to in my last comment about the integration. So we have lots of integrations. This is not all of them, but we integrate with all of these vendors seamlessly. So we make a joke that we actually support more Cisco gear than Cisco does, which is one of our internal jokes. But it's very true that you can take our IP or our DNS defense and we deploy it seamlessly on all of these systems. And you can see AWS on the right hand side there is one of those systems that we deploy on. So this is a nice, not comprehensive, but it's a nice vendor icon slide where you can see all of the things that we deploy on. And I'll turn it back over to Chad.
Thank you very much, Joel. Thank you, everyone. So we're just going to wrap up now. I'll defer soon to my colleague, Steve, who is going to check and see if there's any questions from the attendees, and we'll read those out. I also want to add at the end of the webinar, or when we end the webinar very shortly, you'll get a short survey, 3 questions. Love to get your feedback on how it was. And the documents that we presented and referred, including the case study, are available for download as well. And you will get a recording for all the everyone that registered for the webinar. So on that note, Steve, do you want to let us know what questions we got?
Sure. Yeah, I have a question here. The question is related to compliance and the ITAR OFAC managed rule set. So it says, my company is OFAC compliant, but is not subject to ITAR sanctions. So we do not need to block China IPs. For AWS managed rules, can we add or remove countries from the block list?
So the answer to that is yes. You can individually select which countries you want to, block or not block. And so the simple answer is yes, but you can get right down into the individual countries. And in the case of Ukraine, as I alluded to, it gets even more fine-grained.
I believe this question is specific to managed rules, and I think my understanding is that you cannot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Slice and dice the managed rules.
Yeah, so I apologize. Right, the managed rule set for the ITAR compliance is a package set of all of the ITAR countries. When you get into the ThreatSTOP product, you can select individual ones. I apologize.
Thank you. Okay, so how for managed rules again? How do we know that compliance is being enforced? I mean, are there logs or things for managed rules?
So I would probably defer that question a little bit to Sanchith. He could probably speak a little bit more on the logging section behind the AWS WAF.
Yeah, so there's logging portion.
Sorry, Sanchith, you kind of dropped out there. I don't know if it's just me.
Oh, sorry about that.
Back again.
So with logs, you can definitely check on compliance. There's no pre-made compliance report as such to actually essentially show whether your WAF rules are in compliance or not. However, you could essentially have a log processing pipeline that essentially shows whether these specific countries are blocked or not. Uh, so there's no pre-made report, but the flexibility of WAF logs means that you could craft essentially either a query or a dashboard that actually shows that matches on these specific regions or sources of traffic being blocked, and present that as a report that'll give you a visualization or a report of whether whether you're in compliance or not. Whether that's an official report or not, I'm not sure. I do have enough information to comment on that.
Okay, I have one last question, which I think was touched on tangentially during the presentation. How often are the managed rules updated?
I can go first. So AWS managed rules rely on basically inputs from a multitude of our threat research teams. So you have Amazon.com threat research team, overall, the overall Amazon infrastructure security team, as well as our AWS threat research team as well. So there's multiple inputs. We update the AWS updates the managed rules as needed. There is no set frequency because threats are constantly evolving and every day we see new threats. So, but they're updated, I would say almost daily in some cases. Your IP provider list, for example, that are engaged in being sources or hosting providers, which where attackers commonly launch their attacks from. Those could be updated as frequently as every hour or so. If we don't see any attacks from those sources, they will be removed eventually. So it's not like a one-time thing. On the other hand, your managed rules, as new vulnerabilities are discovered, those managed rules could be updated. So the short answer is it depends, but we are always trying to be as up to date as possible on those managed rules.
Thanks, Sanchit. And Steve, I think I saw another question just come in while you were talking.
Yeah. It's a two-part question. Do we have screenshots and we have collateral around this that show our dashboards? I'm not sure what our current collateral with has screenshots, but we certainly can provide them to you. And in the fields, so I think the dashboard, I'm not sure whether this refers to the ThreatSTOP console, the ThreatSTOP portal, or the AWS portal. So I don't know if you can, Sujit.
Yeah, but I will add to that if you can, of course, and we can include this in the follow-up, sign up for a free trial with ThreatSTOP. So you will see the full ThreatSTOP product. That's not AWS WAF managed rules as such, but you will see all the functionality in there.
Okay. Right. Yeah. And he did clarify that it's the ThreatSTOP console. And yes, you can configure reporting. There's limited amount of things you can do in the dashboard per se. That's more of like a high level, health, look at the overall health of your infrastructure. But the reporting is highly configurable. So if you were looking specifically at compliance, you can do that. You can really make a report that just is constrained to compliance related blocking. Okay, and last one is from a commercial perspective, what drives your pricing? And so I think there's maybe two answers to that question. One would be for managed rules, and one would be for the, maybe the ThreatSTOP integration.
Yeah, I can take a. bit of the AWS side, your AWS pricing is transparent and it's public. So you can definitely check the AWS pricing page, but pricing is primarily comprised of the number of requests that are processed through AWS WAF, as well as the number of rules. And then in addition to that, managed rules from partners are available from the partners marketplace. So I'll defer to ThreatSTOP team for the ThreatSTOP pricing.
Well, I guess we can take that. So to your point, it's all on marketplace. If you can speak, Steve, a little bit to the pricing tiers, we'll just add that, again, we'll follow up with a link to the ThreatSTOP listing on the AWS marketplace with the different rule sets. But maybe Steve, you can just elaborate on how those tiers are set.
Yeah, so there's they're very straightforward. So there's a base price. Essentially, you can think of it per WAF. And the managed rules can be stacked, so you can get the core protections and other things like that. They're additive. So if one costs $30 and the other one costs $35 per month, you're going to wind up paying $65 per month. There is a very small usage fee. I mean, it's as far as the number of hits, because that's another component for pricing, but it's vanishingly small. So it's pretty much going to be the base price, multiplied by the number of web ACLs that you deploy in different regions. So, and that's pretty much it. And the ThreatSTOP pricing, the ThreatSTOP direct integration is also on a per web ACL basis per region. It's a bit more because it comes with the logging and the reporting and whatnot, and it gives you a lot more granularity. So it's a different pricing structure. It's essentially about $2,500 a year per web ACL.
Great. So I believe that covers all the questions. Thank you very much. Some really good questions in there. I'm going to stop the recording now, and